Live from the Heartland Mamas studio, this is the Heartland Mamas Podcast. I'm your host, Heidi Henry. The Heartland Mamas Podcast can be heard on all podcast platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and proudly part of the Demcast USA network. Like, subscribe, and please share. As of today, we have just 294 days left to save the USA. And after this cast, if this doesn't get your rear in gear to get Democrats elected up and down the ticket November 5th, 2024, we will be an authoritarian theocracy. We will descend into fascism. This cast is going to show you what keeps me up at night and what should be keeping you up at night, because this reality is the grim reality of our truth as a nation as it stands right now. You see, yesterday, a woman and her 2 children died crossing the Rio Grand. She was apparently trying to enter the USA. I don't know who she was or who her children are or how old they are or where they came from, but they are dead. And how did they die? Governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, decided to submerge razor wire beneath the surface of the Rio Grande so it was difficult for migrants to avoid as they swam across. He wanted them to get tangled up so that they either bled to death or drowned. He didn't want them to be able to avoid it. So it's just under the surface, and it slices them up so badly they often bleed to death. That is how this young family died, a horrific, terrifying death. Their deaths were watched over by our border guards who stood on the banks of the Rio Grande and watched. They watched the migrant woman come to the banks on the south side, come to the bank and begin to cross. And they saw them, this woman and her 2 children, they saw them get tangled in the razor wire and saw them get shredded and die. And just watched. I was sickened to learn all of this last night, and that we, the United States, would allow such a horrific termination of 3 lives because of politics, because politics killed them. Politics. This young mother and her 2 children were killed by political grandstanding to prove a point, that they were sentenced to death to prove that point by mutilation and drowning. God, I know we have a crisis at the southern border. We have a crisis everywhere. We have people that fly in every week and say, we're going to Disney World. And they never go, and they never go back to take their plane ride back home. They just walk off into our country. And some walk in through the southern border, and some walk in through Canada, like the 9/11 hijackers. They came in through Canada. Did you know that? You should, because the crisis doesn't exist in just one space. Every day, the Coyotes, which is the name for human smugglers, play recordings of Republicans screaming that the Democrats have left the southern border, wide open, and they welcome everybody to come in, which is 100% a lie. The southern border is not open. It's untrue. And Americans claiming that the border is open and welcoming to all people is why they come in droves, egged on and persuaded by videos of people, faces they know, that they've seen on TV saying, yes, the Democrats left the border open, so you better get over here now. They want you to come in, which is 100% not true. It's not wide open. That's a political lie that's cost countless lives in the journey, either to the border or through the Rio Grande. And sometimes these people have come from halfway around the world. They've come from as far as Afghanistan and even further and traveled to South or Central America, and then gotten smuggled up to the border where they try to cross. This unknown woman and her children believed the lies that they were sold, the lies Republicans tell to garner votes and donations from their base. Look, they say, look at all the people streaming in. It's the Democrats' fault, they claim, but they do nothing but stand on the backs of these dead people to lie even larger until the point of gruesome death. We have lost our humanity as a nation to look upon these deaths with glee instead of as a gut-wrenching failure of policy, a failure to address the issue at the source, which is not the border, but at the country of origin. What has happened there that we could help with? What could we do to prevent people from feeling they have to flee their country? And I don't mean regime change. That's none of our business. As a nation, we have to stop lying about the southern border being wide open and welcoming, because it's not, and it hasn't been for over 100 years, and Republicans know this. Ours is a mess of failed policies that have caused the deaths for votes. My heart hurts. My soul hurts that the USA is now a major human trafficker. We can still not account for 900 female children lost during the Trump border separation policy. 900 female, 600 male. Where are they? Where are these kids? They were either sold or lost because no records were kept. We all want to know where they are, especially their parents. Can you imagine losing your child that way? I was fleeing for my life, and at the border they ripped my child from my arms, and I never saw them again. Where are they? Nobody knows. Does another Jeffrey Epstein type have them? Probably. Governor Abbott delights in human trafficking people all over this country by boats, by bus and by plane. He doesn't tell them where he's taking them. He doesn't prepare them for this trip or tell them how long they'll be on these buses or planes. They have no shoes. They have no coats, and he'll drop them off in a blizzard. He'll drop them off in the middle of nowhere. He'll drop them off in minus 50-degree wind chill factor, because to him, they're political pawns, a means to garner votes and donations. I wonder how he's misspent all the billions we've sent Texas to make sure that migrants are fed and housed and processed within 72 hours. And instead, it now takes 11 years, not 72 hours, to have an immigration hearing. I think most of that money is either in his pocket or in the pocket of his cronies. Because where did it go? It's not being used the way it's supposed to be used. It kept me up all night. I woke up in the middle of the night weeping when I finally did get to sleep for this woman and her children. I was wondering, what if we become as a nation that we could submerge razor wire in a wild river and then watch a children and their mother enter the river trying to seek freedom and safety, and then be shredded to bits and then drowned right in front of us, watching it happen, watching it unfold right before our eyes, and doing nothing. But when they drowned, they rejoiced. We can never again claim to be pro-life because we've inflicted dreadful deaths upon the innocent. Until we can work together and put politics aside, more will die and more will watch and dance the dance of death with joy. And so, from the edge of the Great Red Divide, this has been the Heartland Mamas Podcast. I'm your host, Heidi Henry. We've got to vote blue no matter who, because this kind of shit's got to end.